One second. Hello.
Hi, Dawn.
Hey, how are you?
I'm okay. Lovely to see you.
Good to see you. Well, I can't see you at the moment. My thing is just waiting, buffering. So hopefully it'll finish buffering in a bit. So
okay. Well, you've got me and you've got Kathy.
Okay. All right. Cool. Why isn't it this? Let me just. You can see me, okay? Can you?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Yeah, it's waiting. Let's have a look. It says waiting. Anyway, I can hear you clearly, so that's good.
Right. Okay.
Oh, good.
So you're on screen and being recorded, so we've got a good start.
Okay, great.
Let me just go through the format for today.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 5 minutes to make the pitch as to why you should be our nominee for deputy leader. And then, and also what you would do to increase disability participation within the party. We're then going to do a series of 10 questions. I'm going to ask the first 5, and Kathy's going to ask the second 5.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
So when you're ready, do start.
Okay, so even before my brief, in regards to equality, equality is important to me. So my equality is just as important to me as your equality. That's why I was the first MP ever to ask a question in the House of Commons in sign language. And the reason why I did that is because when I worked for the Employment Service, there was somebody there who was deaf. And I was acutely aware that at lunchtime, she would just go and sit by herself and nobody would speak to her. And I thought that's not the kind of society that I want to live in. I want to live in a society where if we can do something to help somebody, then we do. And so I went to night school and I learned how to sign. I went for 2 years and I learned how to sign, and that's how I can sign. And I think that's the kind of society and the kind of attitude that we need people to have. And I'm really pleased that the Labour Party had its Breaking Down Barriers manifesto. And part of that, in that manifesto, was some of the policies that I created around inclusion. So inclusion is vital. And so employers having flexible working as the first option is vital to including people who may not be able to travel to work. And that would include a lot of people with disabilities. So it's important that we don't just talk the talk, but we walk the walk and we do the things that matters to people. There's so many other things that I've done. So when I was in the trade union movement, I used to represent workers at Remploy. The government closing down Remploy had a disproportionately damaging effect on those people with disabilities. So all of a sudden they went from working and being quite independent and having a social group to being unemployed. And the government fails to understand the damage that they've done. The introduction of universal credits, the UN's report says that essentially how we've treated disabled people in our country is a crime, it's criminal. And this is all under this government. So it is absolutely vital that we hold the government to account every step of the way, because we have the most right-wing government that this country's ever seen. And they will not care about people with disabilities, whether they're visible disabilities or invisible disabilities. They'll care as little for those people as they do about Black people, as they do about gay people, as they do about trans people, and all of the intersectionalities that make up diversity. So we have to be, and I have to be, the thorn in the Tory government side. But what would I do as deputy leader? So I see my role as deputy leader as being a campaigning deputy leader, as going around organising and campaigning and ensuring that we engage as many people in our party political process as we can. And that means using new technology. I mean, if you can't join a meeting, you should be able to join via Zoom, for instance. Why not? You should be able to ask questions via Zoom. We're almost like an analog party in a digital world, and it's just time that we change that. And I think by changing our approach means that we will be able to become more inclusive as a party. Sorry, my computer's playing up. Can you still see me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Yep. And can hear you.
And you can hear me great. So So it's vital that we change the way that we do things, that we become more inclusive, so that everybody has a voice in the party. And I am kind of get a bit tired sometimes when people like to talk for other people. You shouldn't be the voice of other people. You should amplify the voice of other people. You should turn up the volume, the voice of other people, rather than saying, I'm here talking about when you haven't had those lived experiences. And it's time that we changed our approach to that. So I do hope that you guys will see fit to nominate me as the deputy leader of the party, because I have the experience to lead and the passion, and also I have the desire to unite the party. Our representation in Parliament of people with visible disabilities is very low, and Marsha's doing an amazing job, but we have to do better. And I will ensure that as a party we do better.
Okay, thank you very much. The first question that we have for you is around stuff to do with access within the party. Many disabled members, including both Kathy and myself, are going to be unable to participate in their CLP hustings because we can't attend in person. Will you guarantee and ensure that disabled members and others who can't easily get to CLP hustings, like, you know, mums who've got kids to look after or those who've got caring responsibilities, will have postal or proxy votes for all internal party elections?
Yeah, I also think that we need to go further than that. So I have a core strategy, CORE, and I'm adding a D to that as well, discipline. But it's about, the C is campaigning, O, organising, R is recruiting, and E is education, and the D is discipline. Now, part of the organising is ensuring that people can participate. Now, if you can't physically be at a meeting, you should be able to participate. Maybe that is via postal votes, but it could easily also be via Zoom call, via Skype. You could be able to vote online. So there is a way that things can be done that we're not doing it. And I think partly because there's no desire to change the way the party's always done things, but we are so old, out of date. I would say old fashioned, but it's more than being old fashioned. We're just out of date in what we are doing as a party. So yes, absolutely. It is vital that everybody who wants to participate is able to participate. It shouldn't be a big deal. And this is what I don't understand, why all of this stuff is a big deal. Like, you know, you almost have to, you know, we almost have to drag people kicking and screaming to make sure, you know, to make sure this happens. It's really easy. You know, people vote on X Factor all the time and all of these things online all the time. Why can't we just, you know, be a better party in that way? For me, it's just nonsense, to be honest. So yes, the simple answer. The simple answer is yes.
Okay.
One second.
Thank you, Dawn.
No worries.
Hang on, you slightly
yeah, she just said to do something.
Get confused for a minute.
Yeah, it's not. I can't get this thing to work properly. But anyway, I carry on.
We can still see you and hear you. So, when Labour are back in government, will you guarantee to stop the frequent and unnecessary face-to-face interviews that traumatise so many of us that have to apply for ESA or PIP?
Yeah. So I used to work in the employment service. I used to work in the job centre, and it was sort of one of the hardest things in a way, because it's so easy for people to lose hope as soon as they walk in those doors. And I worked under the Thatcher government, where they were trying to corrupt the unemployment figures, and we had to put people on disability living allowance, actually. And it's so important. And I think it goes down to the lack of respect for people, and the fact that thousands of people who were declared fit for work died. Some took their own lives. some died. And I think the universal credit is a cruel and inhumane system. And so the answer again is yes. And it was our commitment in our manifesto. And I think that everything in our manifesto stays, everything in the breaking down barriers stays. And as we go through, prepare for the next 3 years, as we prepare for government, we need to start saying to people, look, things would be different if Labour was in government. This is what we would do if Labour was in government. And so everything absolutely stays. And as I said, the UN report is a shame on our country. And the fact that we have to keep highlighting that to the government and they're not taking any notice is appalling. So the answer is yes, 100%. But until we're in government again, and that's why I want to be deputy leader, because I want to prepare us for power. I want to make sure that we're ready to be in government. Until we're in government again, we have to make sure that we highlight all of the atrocities that are happening towards disabled people. We need to highlight it at every opportunity and not let this government forget how they are ruining people's lives every single day.
I just would like to add, ask a supplementary kind of thing.
Sure.
Dawn, when you're deputy leader,
Thank you.
You're welcome. But when you're deputy leader, do you have any ideas about how we can band people together who are being marginalized and putting them together with people who could possibly help them, whether it's organizations like Turn to Us or any of those others, and some of the stuff that Deepak is doing with hand to mouth and all of that kind of stuff. Is there a possibility, or can you think of anything to do where we could start at least the defense and support of people between now and when we get into power? Because my fear is we're going to lose more and more people because the Tories have this huge majority now. And I think we have to box clever. So do you have any ideas about what we could do to, as a movement, support people now and until we get into power?
Yeah, so I think that we have to take the approach that we have a local approach. So the campaigning element of what I want to introduce is about community campaigning. So ensuring that we protect communities at a local level. And that means protecting all communities. So that means that if there's an issue locally, that we include disabled people in the process, but also we protect them as best that we can. And that could mean that we use the services that we have as a party. So one of the things I want to do as a party is have a directory of everybody that we have in the party. And it could be as simple as the simplest level, for instance, how we protect people with disabilities is ensuring that people have buddies, because we are a socialist party. We're supposed to care and look after each other, and we're not just talk about it. So we could have like buddy systems. We can make sure that people are looked after, that they're cared for. Because as we know, carers are underpaid and overworked, and so we have to be that social safety net that helps people with disabilities, but also includes them every step of the way, everything that we do. We have to lead by example. So when I had women's conference, for instance, and when I'm ever in charge of any aspects of conference, I always say, can we make sure that if there's somebody, a disabled person who has an interest in economics or an interest, that we get them on the platform. We have to get our own house in order. That's why we have to make that extra effort, because I think the party sometimes doesn't do that. And so when we start that, we will then be a beacon of what inclusion looks like. You know, we can be a beacon of what equality looks like. And so I think it's vital that we do that. And we start now. Once we start doing that, you know, the snowball effect of that happening will be so powerful. And yeah, there's just so much that we can do. So I think doing that and ensuring that whatever, like the forum says, these are the things that we need you to look at, these are the things that we'd like to do, that we implement it. We need to start doing that. And every single thing that we do, you know, even sometimes how the NEC works, you know, it's not very inclusive. We need to make it more inclusive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just going back to the point you made in your last but one answer, in relation to the people who died whilst they were having been thrown off benefits wrongly. Do you believe that the Tory ministers who were responsible for those decisions and policies should be held to account, and how would you do that?
Oh, absolutely should be held to account. Some of them deserve to be in prison. The way to do it is by highlighting it every turn. So although we're in opposition, we won't be able to win votes very often. We probably won't win any votes. The only thing that we can really do is win the moral argument, so highlight what's happening. The other day there was that disabled man who had mental health issues that was found dead in his home after
Errol.
Errol, after his benefits were stopped. What kind of society do we live in where that happens? What kind of society do we live in where people who are supposed to have a safety net or help so they can have a life and have independent living, that they're referred to as skivers and scroungers? You know, what kind of life, you know, what kind of society do we live in where, you know, the bailiffs found him dead? I mean, that should bring shame on all of us. And we have to ensure that we highlight this at every opportunity with this government, because as I said, they don't care. And it doesn't give me any joy to say that. Like, it's not a great political point to make. They don't care, because the net effect of them not caring is people like Errol being found dead at home. So it doesn't give me any pleasure to say that, but it is just a fact.
Thank you. Are you aware of how much money disabled people need to have as an extra to ensure they have an equal standard of living as compared to those who are not disabled, or as we would say, temporarily able-bodied? And what would you do to fix that divide?
Yeah, so you're right about the temporary able-bodied. I think disability is one of those things where at some point, if we all, you know, live long enough, we will have a disability of some form. So that's quite an important point to make, that actually, you know, helping disabled people is important, because at some point we're all going to have a form of disability. But there is a disability pay gap that is huge. I can't tell you the figure, how much disabled people need to live an equitable life, and I'm sure it's different for each individual. But the point is, for me, is that everyone should have a certain standard of living. You know, you should be able to live, you should be able to eat, you should be able to socialize. You know, that is what a civilized society is all about. And so anything less isn't good enough. And, you know, we had 2005 when we had the Disability Act for adjustments. Now, even in Parliament, Marsha's had to fight tooth and nail to get adjustments so that she can do her job as a member of Parliament.
Exactly.
I mean, it's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. So whatever adjustments is needed, we need to ensure that it happens so people have a quality of life.
Thank you. Thank you. Just so that you know the figure, on average, it's £583 a month.
Okay.
which
Right.
is a huge sum of money.
Yes, it is. It is. But for a month,
Yeah.
how much isn't really a huge sum of money when you think about what it means.
Yeah,
The
true.
person at the other end, you know, there's.
Yeah. In the scheme of things, it isn't, but for those
Yeah,
of us who are stuck on benefits,
that's right.
it is.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
that's, that's an extra, almost £200 a week.
Yeah,
And it goes a
absolutely.
long way.
Yeah. No, for the individual to pay is a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
But for society to ensure that that happens and the dignity in life, when you say, for me, for society, that's not a huge amount for society to take on that responsibility, because that's the kind of society we should be living in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is my last question before I hand over to Kathy. Many disabled candidates fail to get onto both long lists and short lists for council and parliamentary seats. What would you do to ensure that disabled candidates will be included on every long list and every short list?
Yeah, so it starts with inclusion. So we have Ellie, for instance, in Brent, who is blind, and she does housing. And it starts with inclusion. It starts with normalizing people that have different abilities. It starts with that. And once we start with that, it means that it should become better to have a more diverse list of candidates. I mean, I went campaigning for Pam, and she's amazing. I can't remember her seat now, but she's in a wheelchair and she's absolutely phenomenal. Unfortunately, she didn't win, but it's a shame because Parliament could do with her input. So it starts with inclusion. So it starts with ensuring that, as I say, when we have ward meetings or branch meetings, that people can participate, whether they're at home, whether they're a parent, whether they're disabled, that they're able to participate. So everything that we're doing, you have that participation element to it and normalize it. And once we normalize it, it should change. If it doesn't change, because change is rather slow and painful, let's be honest. If it doesn't change, then we may need to look at how we enforce a change. Because the thing is once you have somebody, and this is where Marsha's really good, because Marsha ensures that even though I'm with her, for instance, and I could tell her what the menu is, what's on, and I do, and I say, Marsha, she will say, can I have my menu in large print, please? So they have to go and get her menu in large print. So everything they do, they make sure they do a copy in large print. So it becomes normalized. And that's what we need to do, so that the person coming behind, Marsha, doesn't have to go through all of that. It's automatic. It's automatic that, you get large print if you've got problems with your eyesight, that, there's wider doors for you to get through if you're in a wheelchair. And that's the kind of thing that we need to do.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to pass over to Kathy for the next group of questions.
I would just agree with a lot of what you said. Being a disabled counselor, this is where it being a disabled labor counselor in opposition in a Tory council. I've been very lucky because the counselor services that I have in my council are very good at providing me with what I need. They put paddle door openers on their glass doors. They put the ramps in so I can get down on the floor to be on the front bench, if you like. But at the time, I was really lucky because I was working. But so many people I've talked to, the standing for office is prohibitively expensive, whether it's from any protected characteristic. We all face similar things, but it's it can get prohibitively expensive, especially when you're on something like universal credit, because for universal credit, there is no allowance for work. It's if you're working or if you're doing something that you get any income at all from, you have to, you will take a hit. So allowances for counselors, you take a hit. So we have, so in that, what would you do to help people who are disabled to get the support?
So part of our manifesto, we had something in there about having extra support for people who need it, disabled people who need extra support, that we provide extra support. There used to be additional funding, and it means funding, but there used to be an additional pot of funding. And I think councils used to have it and the party used to have it. And we were going to reintroduce something like that if we were in government. And I think it's vital that we do that. So not just the party has extra funding, but local authorities have extra funding. So if they've got somebody with disability that wants to stand to be a councillor, that they get the extra funding and help that they need. It could be an aid, it could be the extra money, because as well as the £583 that you need just to have like equitable life, you need additional money if you're standing as a candidate and you need additional help. And that help is, as I say, monetary, or it could be an aid, for instance. But as part of our manifesto, we had that in. So what we probably need to do, I can't remember the name of the fund, but there was a fund, and I don't know.
Access to Elected Office Fund, which had been restarted by, almost called Theresa May Thatcher. Freudian slip.
They're very similar.
But, but that fund is the access to, to election fund.
And then they removed it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. She put it back because the Tories removed it. Then she put it back because she got pressure from the EC, the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, with their more united campaign. They forced her to restart it, but in effect, what she did was she basically didn't start it because they said, well, we're doing this, that, and the other thing. She stalled and stalled and stalled. They then started it up for not this past election, but the election before, and nobody got it. But that was only from MPs as well. So we do have to provide that kind of excellent. But I think also, in addition, we need to probably put in, and this is something that maybe I can put in your brain, so we need to have we need to get people the support, such as, the new fund, and forgive me, I've forgotten what the name of the fund is, the grant system for BAME MPs. They could take leadership.
We have the Benny Grant scheme.
The Benny Grant is the one. So I created that.
So forgive me, I didn't remember it, but maybe we could look at doing something similar for disabilities, because I think what is interesting about disability as a protective characteristic is that you can have more than one. You can be BAME, you can be a BAME woman like Marcia, so I think we need to level up. But anyway, I'm getting off the track yet again. So would you support, providing, as you said, yes, would you support demands from from disabled people's movement and the Realizing Our Futures Alliance for a National Independent Living Service, and enshrining the UN CRPD Article 19 into UK law.
Yes, it was one of the commitments that we had said that we would do, is implement the UN recommendations. So, so yes, I think so. And back to your disability program as well. I think that's something that I will talk to Marsha about in regards to putting something on like that. So I will have a conversation with Marsha, because it's not something that anyone had we talked about having a conference. I think there's a disability conference, and I from memory I recall there were some discussions about how people define and all of that, and that had to be ironed out. But I would have a chat to Marsha about that.
Yeah, thank you. Also, I think another thing to just say along with that when you speak to Marsha is there's also a feeling of not being included, because a lot of the things that are said are involving people getting help who are in work. And there are a lot of people who can't work. So I think we need to broaden things so that we're showing that it's everybody. It doesn't matter if you can work or not.
Yeah, I agree.
So, my next one is, will you support, oh, I did that one. Oh, God, sorry.
It's all right.
How would you engage with disabled members so you can understand the injustices being experienced by disabled people and ensure their voices are heard and all Labour Party policies are equality impact assessed?
Yes, so that is vital to ensure that everything that we propose and the policies that I did, I ensured that there was an impact assessment to them, and also an inclusive element to them, like, as I said, flexible working, because you know that would help disabled people as well as everybody else. But we have to ensure that whatever we're putting forward, that it absolutely has an impact assessment to it, because we cannot at any stage have policies like universal credit that damages the livelihood and lives of disabled people. And if we're going to be better, which we are, we have to do better, but also make sure that we future-proof it. And it becomes habit forming. You know, if everything that we do, you pass it through the disability lens, it means it'll be better for everybody, because that's the kind of level and bar that it needs to be set at. So it is imperative that that happens, and the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Many disabled members, especially those with neurodiverse conditions, are adversely impacted within the current dysfunctional party complaint system. This applies to those who both make complaints and have complaints made against them. As deputy leader, will you agree to work with disabled members to ensure that they can be properly supported by advocates?
100%. It's vital for a fair system. Obviously, our complaint system in the party needs an overhaul and needs looking at, and it needs improving, and it has to be improved for everybody. And of course, that means disabled people. So 100%, the answer to that is yes. And in fact, I would go further and say, if you can write down the elements that you want to see included in our disability, in our complaints process in regards to disabled people and any issues, if you could submit that as evidence, because the whole system is being looked at, and it's vital that it's not ignored. So yes, please. And if you can put all that in writing, then I'd appreciate that too.
Okay.
Thank you. We will definitely be doing that. I will work on that with several people that I've spoken to. So yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
And
Brilliant.
finally, I haven't asked my cheeky one yet, but this one isn't it. Do you also accept outstanding complaints should be investigated and responses sent to both sides ASAP?
Yeah. I mean, even I've got an outstanding complaint. It's a few years old, but I would like it dealt with. So yes, I do.
Okay, great. Now my cheeky question for you. One of the things that I noticed when I became a local counselor, and I think it's going to be critical between now and when we finally get into government, that I was at a local PPC, or no, it was the PCC. I get confused, but the police had a monthly meeting thing, and a woman had a mental health crisis during that,
Right.
and nobody knew how to deal with her.
Right.
And one of the things Fran and I have done is, on the back of that, we have gone and gotten instructed in teaching mental health first aid. And my cheeky ask is, would you agree to work with us to deliver training programs of mental health first aid to every MP and every counselor to get mental health first aid rolled out across not only the party, but across Parliament eventually, so that it becomes part of the learning process of everybody who becomes an MP?
Yeah, excellent, brilliant. Well, my core strategy, campaign, organize, recruit, and educate, as part of the educational program, is exactly that: educating people all around the country on various issues. Racism, anti-Semitism, and now mental health first aid. I'm going to add that into my educational program. So you've just helped me with a bit of my manifesto, so thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. One of the reasons why I wanted to mention, it, especially to you, because I know how I've said it to each of the candidates because of how important it is, that we would be more than happy to bring our lived experience and our professional experience to help you design your educational program for disabled people. Brilliant. And like you said, it's never them and us. Yeah. It's only us.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Fantastic. Well, the answer is 100% yes. And I'll make sure it happens as deputy leader. But I'd still like to have the information anyway.
Of course.
But the answer is 100% yes, and we can organise it, and also, organise it to happen in Brent as well, because I want Brent to have all the training, at the CLP.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, 100% yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dawn, and thank you so much for your time today. I really want to give you just a couple of minutes to find out if you've got any questions you wanted to ask us before we close the session.
No, I think it's great, and thank you for everything that you do, and all of the work and all of the advocacy. Congratulations, being a counsellor as well. Well done on that.
Oh, thanks.
And I'm here as well anyway. So if there's always anything that you want to talk to me about, or you want to engage with me on something, please don't hesitate to get in touch, send me an email. We can do another Zoom call. Sorry, it's not working properly my end, but at least it's working properly your end, so that's more important. So just a thank you, really.
You're welcome. And whatever happens with the campaign for deputy leader, we will be working with you going forward, because you've done probably more than most as far as inclusion is concerned. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I look forward to working with you all more.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Dawn, take care, and thank you so much for your time today.